So hi, nice to meet all of you. My name is Sarah. I lead the developer experience for Filecoin Virtual Machine. So my team, Matt's on my team. I have Zach, Longfei, Robert. These are all names that you'll be seeing around the Filecoin FVM community, as well as they will be giving multiple workshops across the next few days. So definitely stay tuned because they'll be covering a lot of tutorials on how you can build with FVM. So my team covers developer education. We're also very involved in the community. So if you have any questions, we're all going to be around as mentors throughout the hackathon. We'll mostly be on Discord. We'll be there for the project feedback sessions, as well as if you do need to DM us. We might be a little bit slower on DMs. We're taking most questions within either the Discord or the Phil Builders channel on the Slack. There, so that ask your questions openly, other people can benefit from your questions too. Yeah, we're just super happy to be building with all of you, and thank you for being interested to build with the Filecoin Stack. So I'll get into it, and before that, if you are interested to kind of tune in or see past sessions that we've done live coding with trying out different pieces of FVM as it continues to develop, you can check out the FVM Dev Twitter account, or you can follow us on the Phil Builders Twitch account. So yeah, a lot of good stuff in there. You can see Matt and I kind of figure stuff out on the go and build along with it. All right, so just a quick introduction to FVM. We've launched the mainnet since March this year. We've been doing, I think, about 10 plus hackathons now, about 5 FVM specific hackathons, including this one. And we've seen like about 500 over FVM projects come in from those. So we're even more excited to have this, to open up to the ENCODE community and see the kind of projects that you all will be developing. So a quick intro, since we've been around for a little bit, is that the FVM project delivers on-chain programmability to the Filecoin network. What does that actually mean? So in the larger context of the Filecoin master plan, the first step was for us to build the world's largest decentralized storage network. Check that. That's been in building for about 5 to 7 years. We have one of the largest decentralized storage capacities out there today, and a lot of data is being onboarded as we speak. Step 2 was to onboard and safeguard humanities data. So we've had a lot of interesting partners, universities, research centers, companies as well to store their data with us. And now the question was, what can we do with all of that data? So we have a lot of data sitting on the network, along with our storage provider network storing the data off-chain, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But we were thinking, what could you build with all this data? If we added programmability to it, you could enable web scale applications the same way that you see in Web 2. There's just a ton of opportunities there. So we thought about bringing compute to this data, and that was first enabled with FVM, which has enabled a lot of different opportunities that you can, and different things that you can do with your data moving forward. So I'll get into a little bit of how this works, and also we'll talk a little bit later on about some of the use cases that we've seen built by projects and some of the use cases that we're super excited to see being built in the very near future, especially with new features continuously being added to FVM and with new partners being onboarded to the FVM ecosystem. So let's get into a little bit on the core concepts for FVM. As I said earlier in the Twitter spaces, one of the best advice we can give to developers that are new to the Filecoin ecosystem or are new to building on the Filecoin ecosystem, a really good place to start is to understand how these all layer up, what components sit where, and being very clear on that, so that you are able to piece them together to build your project. Right, so we have the IPFS. If you think about it from bottom to top, it's kind of the evolution of how the storage network has progressed and how the Filecoin stack has progressed. We started off with IPFS and libp2p. This was all more of a peer-to-peer network platform that you could use to store your data and transfer it within different nodes. And then we started with and then we built the Filecoin protocol, which then enables you to have an incentivized market to store your data. So with IPFS, the nodes are mostly not guaranteed for storage in the long term. Whereas if you wanted to guarantee your storage was being stored with a storage provider, we had the Filecoin protocol that came up and a huge network of storage providers that are onboarded. And they're actively storing data representing those deals on the Filecoin protocol and making sure that they prove, within a 24-hour window over and over that your data is guaranteed to be stored. Right, so that will be layer 0, which is the Filecoin protocol. And then comes the interesting bit where all these developers start to come in. So it's no longer going to be about just upload and retrieval. right? So with the layer 1, which is FVM that was launched to mainnet earlier this March, we have compute over state. And what that means is that you are computing the metadata of the storage deals that are represented on the Filecoin network. So I'll show you a diagram in a little bit that will clarify things. But TLDR, you're uploading your data. Your data gets stored off-chain with storage providers. They represent your data on-chain through a deal. And FVM allows you to compute the metadata of that deal. So you're not actually going into the data itself. And you can do that with retrieval, bring the data down, because it is really heavy to store all this data on-chain. So that allows you to manipulate your data how you need within your solution or your project, but you're not actually having to spend extra cost or effort to be able to unseal and unpack that data, manipulate it, especially if you're not needing to compute the data instantly, right? So that allows your solution to move much faster, and you can do a lot around storage-focused applications. So a lot of those applications are built on the layer 2. That would be all the solutions and tooling that's coming in. Of course, we're also super interested, and we have technical discussions around how users or developers in the community can also help to improve the tooling of the layer 1 with FVM. So there are many other parts of, now that FVM has opened up the Filecoin protocol, there are a lot more parts of the Filecoin stack that you could combine your project with to manage your data sets. So a few that you see on the right side over here, you have your Open Dataset Explorer. If you head over to opendata.filecoin.io, you will be able to access existing data sets that you could play around with, play around with that open data, kind of simulate how you would maybe upload maybe a really important piece of data set amongst your community. You could also enable things like data DAOs with FVM, which allows for collective storage of all that data, have it being retrieved by Saturn, creating retrieval markets with Saturn running, and also think about how you could use like easy storage tools to upload your data. Either you want to do it directly with FVM, or you want to use something like a middleware partner that like lighthouse.storage that allows you to very quickly within the SDK upload your data to it. You can also think about how you can use IPC to scale your application across sidechains and make it even faster. You can also think about using Bacalhau, which is our decentralized compute framework. They have the Lilypad project today, which allows you to quickly fork the repo and then compute your data off-chain, based on the deals that are represented on the Filecoin protocol and that you're accessing with FVM. So it kind of all ties together. And of course, there's IPFS for pinning and quick retrieval. So all these things tie together to provide like a really comprehensive suite of things that you could use to build your storage application. I'll show you some examples as well later on. So yes, to give you a sense, this is the Filecoin stack. There's a lot that you can do with it. And let's get into FVM itself. So how FVM works, I just talked about it briefly, but to give, I feel like diagrams always help a lot. So if you want clarification on how it works, similar to the stack that I mentioned earlier on, we start with the storage provider network, which is off-chain. So you see all that bunch of smiley faces there. These represent all the different storage providers that we have. They are also like some of them are on the calibration testnet. So we have the Filecoin mainnet, but for this hackathon, most of you will be building on top of the calibration testnet if you're using FVM or if you want to ship your project and have it running. So that's our storage provider network, which is off-chain, and they represent all the deals that you have made on the Filecoin blockchain, which is the layer 0 over there on the third line. So that's where all your storage deals get represented. The Filecoin virtual machine, if you see that dotted line around the storage deal, that's where we are computing the metadata around that deal to then enable all your layer 2 applications around compute, encryption, DeFi, and so on. So there are, like Matt shared earlier on, there are a few big categories that you can build in. You see storage-related applications, DeFi applications, tooling as a whole. You can all build this together with the FVM. And that's how, in a nutshell, the architecture, the architecture of the stack works. So getting into the FVM architecture, I'm sure many of you have seen this. This is how the FVM actually is built. So every instance of FVM runs on top of a Filecoin node. Of course, these many nodes make up the Filecoin protocol. Within each of these FVM instances, you have two large components, two main components. So if you see over here, you have your user-defined, in terms of what users can define, you can either do user-defined WASM actors, which are actually coming early Q1, and I'll talk about the roadmap. early Q1 next year. And as of today, and where a lot of the exciting 500 plus projects have come from, is from the EVM smart contracts, the foreign runtimes that we have enabled. So the first one that we launched in mainnet in March was the Ethereum compatible Filecoin virtual machine, which means that we have a fully feature complete Ethereum JSON RPC API that allows you to build with most tools that you're comfortable with, especially if you are a Solidity developer, which is a super popular tool for most smart contract developers out there. You could use the tools that you're comfortable and familiar with to then build applications that will deploy onto the Filecoin network via FVM. So you might be building Remix, you might be using Hardhat, Foundry. We have a few starter kits to support that if you want to fork them and use them straight off the cuff. And that will allow you, once you've built up your smart contract, you've deployed it, it will actually deploy to the Filecoin network. And we have an intermediary library, which is called the Filecoin Solidity library, that will allow you to very easily access functions on the Filecoin protocol and all these storage primitives from your Solidity smart contract. So that is the main Ethereum compatible part that you'll be mostly building with this hackathon. We also use Wasm Time under the hood. So if you're thinking about the future of the Filecoin virtual machine, it isn't just the Ethereum ecosystem that we're looking at. We have built the FVM with Wasm Time running under the hood. All of it compiles to Wasm. It is a polyglot virtual machine, and we do intend to run multiple runtimes on it in the very near future. So you'll see especially once the user-defined Wasm actors are enabled, that will allow many more frameworks that different developers want to work with to be used to be able to create all these smart contracts and solutions and projects. So we even have some that are already built like AssemblyScript, Go, and these are frameworks that have already been built, waiting for it to be available on mainnet so that you can build more with such other frameworks. So a lot more interesting stuff coming in the future. So if you are new to Filecoin FVM, definitely get into it and start building today and get ready for what's coming up early Q1 next year. Cool. So looking a little bit at the FVM roadmap, having a quick look back, a lot of interesting stuff has happened since then. We launched in March 2023, but in Feb 2023, we actually ran a really huge hackathon called the Space Swap Hackathon, and we've been piloting FVM since November last year. If some of you have attended HackFevM, you have seen the progress of how we've come such a long way from then until now. So in Feb 2023, we shipped a fully complete FVM, Ethereum JSON RPC API. We could use MetaMask, we could use Remix. There's really exciting things that we showcased in Lisbon around November, and we had the hackathon in February for most builders to build on top of it. We also shipped our very first client contract, which was a proof of concept that programmatic deal making can happen with FVM, which means that before that, if you look into our docs, you'll see that through manual deal making, you would go through the Lotus node, you would be making deals with the storage provider yourself, whereas now with FVM, you could very easily submit and emit an event through a smart contract for your deal proposal and have storage providers pick it up. Not barring other considerations that are under considerations to get your deal made, but it allows you to programmatically get your data uploaded. So that was all launched in February, and once we launched the mainnet, we were ready with all these key features to begin with, and we also integrated a few DeFi partners like Exler, Steeler, Squid Router, for cross-chain messaging and to have some bridges to build with. So that unlocked a lot of DeFi capabilities with FVM. So if you're interested in a DeFi project, we have a lot of examples for you and a lot of tools for you to build with. We're also available on some exchanges to facilitate some of that, now that Fill can be used in a different way. That was enabled as well in March. We also shipped Rep Fill. That was a big ask, so a huge win there. And then coming to May, we had about 30 plus projects that were following us for about 6 months as we developed the first version of the FVM and shipped it. And since then, they have shipped about 30 plus projects to mainnet, with about 20 plus of them entering accelerator partners. So a lot of these teams came from hackathons. They joined us in the middle of hackathons when they were really outstanding projects. So if you're building this hackathon, we're super excited to welcome you to the ecosystem and have you build with us and have and envision that kind of sustainable solution that you want to build in the long term with Filecoin. Also in May, we shipped the FVM Foundry starter kit. So we have a Hardhat starter kit, a Foundry starter kit, and we are now fully on the calibration testnet. Coming into June, a lot more things have come up. We have had new features that have been built. We shipped the proof of data segment inclusion, which allows you to upload smaller pieces of data, because on the Filecoin protocol, a lot of these projects or storage deals do require you to, or are better incentivized to be picked up by storage providers and to be successfully picked up and accepted if your data is larger than somewhere around 4 gigabytes, right? But you might want to upload smaller pieces of data and you want to have proof and know exactly where your data is being stored. So pod size solves that, and that's something that you can build with in this hackathon. So definitely look out for the workshop by Lighthouse and also by Zach, my teammate, on data DAOs on how you can use pod size within your solution. We also have 5 block explorers that you can use to observe your deals and those deals being made and all the different transactions. We've integrated with even more partners across June, and we launched about 10 plus staking pools on Filecoin. Fast forward, we have the data DAO starter kit, but here we are in August, and we have about 2.9 million fill in contract balance, 1.7K unique contracts deployed, 3.2K overall, which is huge. There's been a lot of development on Filecoin with FVM. So really excited to see the growth and excitement there. Yeah, and now we're on our 5th FVM specific hackathon and want to see even more projects submitted to it. Right, so in terms of what's coming soon, we have in Q3, which is coming, we're in the middle of right now. We are shipping replication renewal repair as a service, so further enhancing the programmatic storage story. I talked about how we shipped the first version of being able to upload storage, upload data programmatically with the client contract, and then having pod size to then be able to provide proof for smaller pieces of data. And now we have replication renewal repair as a service, which allows your data to be perpetually stored, which means that it will programmatically be able to observe your deals. And if they require more replication, or the deal is broken, or it is reaching expiry, these are things that you can be notified about, and you can set parameters that allow it to be automatically renewed or repaired, or have your data continue to be stored. And so these are things that we are shipping in this hackathon. These are resources that you can already use at this hackathon. So look forward to the workshop on that and start playing around the starter kits there. We would love to see all-in-one built storage solutions that have unique features, unique value to be added to the storage ecosystem with FVM. So super exciting features for you to build with. Also in Q3, we're working on foundational changes that will enable WASM actors, which I talked about slightly earlier on, to be shipped to mainnet in Q1 2024. And we're also hosting a developer summit in Singapore and Iceland. So coming up towards the end of September, if you are in Singapore or Iceland or traveling there, definitely participate in these. These are not just talks, these will be very discussion focused. More and more we definitely want to build even closer with our builders and to see the direct feedback on what makes sense for them. We're going to host a lot of whiteboarding sessions. So if you want to have a say on how FVM is being built, definitely sign up for those and join us there. In Q4 as well, we'll see a new version of the Filecoin.sol library. Decentralized aggregated deal making will also be more ready for builders to build with. So you can build your own aggregation deal making platforms, which allows for upload of data. And we'll have more SP dApp services, which is storage provider dApp services, coming up on FVM pretty soon, with Phil Vegas happening sometime in October. So if you're around there, definitely join that too. So yeah, a ton of stuff coming even in Q1. We're super excited to see IPC and FVM. We'll have Nikhil talking a little bit about it later on, but we definitely see a lot of potential there once IPC is enabled with FVM. Applications move a lot faster, be cheaper, and so on. So a lot more building to come in Q1. So let's talk. In the last part of my talk, let's talk a little bit about what you can build at this hackathon. Now you've seen what FVM is about, you know how much it's been progressing and everything that's about to come, which allows for even more ideas to be built with FVM. So in this hackathon, what can you build, right? So we have some new programmatic storage features. Again, FVM can enable DeFi use cases as well. We have a use case cheat sheet and resource that you can look at, and if you scan this link over here, this will lead you to a link tree with all different resources for FVM, including the use case idea list. But given that this is the open data hackathon, a lot of you will be operating with key data sets. So I wanted to share a little bit about the storage features that you can work with. So key resources that you'll have, and all these are related to workshops that you can attend throughout the week. We have data DAOs. Again, data DAOs are DAOs as you know it. centered around an important data set that the community finds important. And you can use different ways and different smart contracts and different conditions to manage that data set, right? So we have a data DAO starter kit that's super simple, allows you to upload storage and start managing that with the OZ governor contract. And then you can build on top of that. So we have a data DAO starter kit ready to go, where we see a lot of use cases there. Direct deal making with client contract is something that you can look into as well. This allows you to modify all of the params with FVM on how you want data uploaded. But definitely do read through what is required for you to be able to make a successful deal on the Filecoin testnet with direct deal making. We also have aggregated deal making, which is more recommended for small data pieces, and PotSci, which allows for proof of those small data pieces that is now enabled by the Lighthouse Storage SDK. So if you head over to their page, it will be available in the resources as well. You can simply use the SDK on your front end to then run and execute all these different workflows and build an industry-specific solution on top of that. We have the REST starter kit. So if you want to build tooling with REST, that is a key part of our programmatic storage features. You can check out the base interface of the REST starter kit for replication, renewal, and repair of deals. Or you can also use the Lighthouse Storage SDK, which allows you to modify a little less params, but allows you to very quickly enable and access REST features. So these are key things that we're looking out for in our FVM projects. We hope people start to adopt them and give us feedback on how it's being used. And of course, if you want to use an existing data set, you can definitely check out datasets.filecoin.io, access your data from there, and start building it within your application. So just to give a sense of projects that we've seen in the past that have been standout to us, wanted to give a quick shout out to these great projects from all the hackathons we've been doing, and some of them have also stayed on in our ecosystem and continued building with us and entered accelerators and everything. So thanks so much for building with us. To give you some ideas to spark your creativity, so SpendDAO is a really good example of a data DAO, right? So what they do is to collate and upload data from different users, the credit card data, and have the credit card data access control with access control conditions. Different companies that want to access your credit card data can then pay the DAO's treasury to access that data, or it can also run computation frameworks to maybe generate a model to predict credit card usage behavior and then sell those results out as well. So that was a really creative use of the data DAO and also a really impactful use of it. The other one is DeFi Kicks. So that was a data DAO that collated different algorithms for analyzing network data and network usage, and then having people to vote on them to, which is a very transparent way of deciding how people want to gauge how successful a network is, and have people vote on what is the best model to use to measure that network and build a whole data DAO out of it. So that was a very interesting use case as well. Another bucket of applications that could come up is around tooling or services to support our storage provider side of the network. So you have the client side, which is if you want to upload data, but you also have storage providers where they store your data. So a good example here is SPX. So that's SP Exchange. What they do is to allow storage providers to stake within a pool, receive rewards faster, and also to have some optimizations of the storage provider market within the application. So that's a really good use case of FVM as well to support storage providers. That's also one area that you could develop in. And we have some cool use cases, which is like Samhita DAO, a data DAO around preserving dying languages or languages that are culturally important but maybe less used today. So it allowed people to upload bits of information about the language, and people would vote on top of it to see which is the accurate piece of data, and then compile it into a shared language repository. So you could keep these languages and preserve them for a long time. And then lastly, a really good example would be around eStore, which was one of the applications that combined all these different programmatic storage features that were available at the time. So REST and PotSci weren't around, but they had things like uploading directly with the client contract and making it super easy for users to use their platform to upload data and to get proof of their stored data. So you could also look into building these kind of upload and retrieval platforms in your projects, combining all the different parts of FVM and putting it in a really useful and good UI. That's also a really good area that you could build into. So to give you a sense, these are standout projects we're hoping to see what cool stuff you guys can come up with. And of course, don't be afraid to build. Even if you're super new to it, we're here to help you and help you to iterate on your idea as well. So quickly going through a developer journey. So you might have heard a ton of stuff from me earlier on that I know there is a lot to digest in the Filecoin ecosystem. For storage specifically, this is a quick guide. This is also in the resources section on how you could think about your journey in this hackathon, right? So if you start off start of the decision tree, do you want to manage existing data or do you want to upload data? If you want to manage existing data, you can use the Open Datasets platform on Filecoin. If you want to upload data, there are two options that you have. Either you're using programmable storage with FVM, or you're using non-programmatic storage, which is also useful in some use cases. So it is up to you on what your project needs require. Typically, for non-programmatic storage, you maybe don't have that much of a storage focus. It is for really light storage of JSON files. You might want to use some of our storage on-ramps like web3.storage, NFT.storage, IPFS, and you could build a dApp or tool with the stored data, by getting the content ID for it. Super simple to use. That's where your project's taking a slightly different direction. If your project is super focused on storage-related use cases, you could look into programmatic storage where you can modify and adjust all these different storage parameters. So if you're building dApps, you can think about either using aggregated deal making and REST to the Lighthouse SDK. That's a super easy SDK to use. They have documentation of their own as well, so definitely check out their website. It is on the resources link too. Or you could use the direct deal making starter kit with the hard hat, the deal making starter kit to look at how you could build deals with the client contract, get it automatically uploaded to Filecoin. Or you could look at the REST starter kit base interface, which allows you to modify the full params for how you want to build out replication, renewal, and repair of your storage deals. That's more on the tooling side, but you could also use it for building a dApp. And if you want to build a dApp yourself, we have another resource in the resource link, which is all your use cases. So check out the request for startups and hack starter ideas resources there to get some ideas based on top of what I just showed you. Or you could look at the DataDAO starter kit, which allows you to fork it really quickly and get a DataDAO started and to build up, whichever problem statement that you're pursuing. So this is kind of how we think about how you could navigate your way through the different resources, and then think about how you can combine it with different parts of the Filecoin stack to enable other capabilities like compute and scaling and so on. Yeah. So all in all, that is a bunch. There's a lot. We've tried to squeeze it into this link tree here on this resource page. So check that out, and we will be in the Discord to answer your questions. And yeah, thanks everyone.